Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. In today's ongoing coverage of the civil war that is taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the fighting continues, and the fighting is continues in a very intense manner. We can also report that there is additional Tigrayan Defense Force elements moving into the Amhara region. We are receiving reports backed by video information that has been verified that would suggest that more forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces are being moved into the Amhara region. We have seen dozens and dozens of large truckloads of Tigrayan Defense Force personnel being moved deeper into the Amhara region. Specifically, a lot of these forces that are coming in to the area of operations is specifically to the north of Gondar. We continue to see a very significant push and buildup of forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces that are moving into that region. We are also receiving reports that additional forces are moving into the vicinity of Weldia and the environments along the southeastern front. But again, the fighting continues to be very intense, and we continue to see the mass mobilization and training of the Tigray region for what is becoming quickly, or not becoming quickly. It has transformed in what we could define as total war, in which both sides of the populations of the two opposing sides are building up significant forces with the intent of militarily defeating their opponent. We are also seeing the same type of buildup in the Amhara region. We have learned that schools, secondary schools, primary schools, are being turned into military training camps. And we have verified footage of very, very young persons, both male and female, being trained with rifle, AK-47, basic infantry tactics. Are these volunteers? Or is there limited or universal conscription occurring? It's hard to say. From the information that we have, it would appear that it does appear to be voluntary. However, obviously, given the nature of conflict, that could change. But we are seeing a heavy mobilization on the part of the Amhara regional forces. There's probably more mobilization occurring in those areas than there actually is towards the capital of Addis Ababa. But as I had discussed earlier in other episodes, I had predicted that we would either see eventually the Amhara region taking control of the Ethiopian federal government in some capacity, or at some point raise enough forces where the Amhara forces have greater combat power than the Ethiopian military proper, so to speak. But we continue to see a non-unity of command. There is no unity of command between the Amhara forces and the Ethiopian army and military. There has even been some fighting that has occurred between Amhara militia units and the Ethiopian military proper. We have seen military personnel on the part of the Ethiopian military basically quit their roles within the Ethiopian army and join these regional Amhara militia units. And some obviously have taken leadership positions within these militia units. But that would be the course of the breakdown in terms of as the state of Ethiopia starts to fragment and fragments along ethnic lines. And as I had discussed before, I believe eventually the Amhara paramilitaries militias will become its own independent army operating independent of the actual Ethiopian federal state, or the alternative would be the Amhara region actually takes control of the Ethiopian federal government at some point, and then by proxy, the Ethiopian government, the Ethiopian military becomes a basic extension of the Amhara regional paramilitary apparatus. I hope that makes sense. But again, the heaviest fighting right now is still occurring along the southern front, and I am defining the southern front basically running the entire length of the border of the Amhara region with the Tigray region. We continue to see fighting also occurring in the Afar region as the TDF continues to move into the Afar region and continues to take objectives and targets inside of the Afar region as well. We have seen some tactical withdrawal in some areas of the Afar region as well, and that was something that would eventually happen given the lack of resources inside of the Afar region, given the sparsity of terrain and the lack of infrastructure to be able to supply large groups of fighting personnel. But again, the real focus of the fighting is in the Amhara region. Another issue that is raising its ugly head is the fact that Eritrean army units are now moving into the Amhara region from occupied western Tigray. And these units are moving down and supporting the Amhara Regional Army in its efforts to fight back the Tigrayan Defense Forces as they continue its advance. We believe, in fact, the Eritrean Army had been operating in the Amhara region for some time now, but we are just now confirming that, in fact, large elements of the Eritrean army have actually moved into the Amhara region and are directly supporting the Amhara regional militias. But again, this is taking on the prospect of a very long-term conflict in terms of the amount of personnel that are being pushed into military units and are willing to engage each other in battle. And unfortunately, this will probably last for some time, months, most definitely, if not years. But as we speak right now, there continues to be a very significant buildup of Tigrayan Defense Forces, especially in the southwestern area of operations. And what I mean by that is in the Debark area. We could expect to see some fairly significant push, possibly a breakthrough at some point. But we'll wait and observe. Remember the situation that existed inside of the Tigray region before the Ethiopian army was driven out. Remember, the entire Tigray region was in fact occupied by these Ethiopian and Eritrean forces and were eventually driven out and basically defeated on the battlefield and had to withdraw. Now, could we see something like that take place in western or even the southeastern zone of operations? Possibly. I can confirm that there is definitely a movement, a heavy movement of forces. There is still a commitment by the Tigrayan Defense Forces to continue to advance and defeat the armies of the Ethiopian state, or the former Ethiopian state, and the Amhara militias. And again, I just want to touch on that former Ethiopian state. When you see multiple areas of the country that have broken away, obviously the Tigray region is essentially its own independent state. You have large areas, and the areas of the Oromo areas that are occupied by the Oromo Liberation Army, or in under their opinion, they have liberated areas of the Oromia region, is quite significant. And those operations continue in western Oromia and southeastern Oromia by the Oromo Liberation Army. And this is significant and is continuing to have dire ramifications for the Ethiopian state, and we've continued to see the deployment of even some Amhara militia units into the Oromia region to try and put down elements of the Oromo Liberation Army that are operating in western and northern Oromia. But we will continue to monitor that situation and report and anything new that comes across our network. I will most assuredly report it. I was asked one more thing real quick. I was asked in terms of how I obtain information. Obviously, there are many open sourced information that can be compiled and analyzed and reviewed and distributed in terms of learning information from that existing information. The channel also benefits from human intelligence on the ground, and there may or may not be actual intelligence coming from certain elements within the Ethiopian federal military as well, and then obviously other combatants as well in terms of the conflict. But that's all I have for today, and I will most certainly make another video soon. Have a great day, everybody.